Well, economic, social and cultural rights are rights that touch on people's daily lives and really affect everyone. Economic and social rights relate to things like access to education, access to health, access to social security or means of livelihood, very fundamental and basic services and goods that humans need to live a dignified life. In addition to that, they're also very foundational rights. Improving economic and social rights can have amplifying impacts in terms of getting people out of poverty, expanding opportunities, and can have significant positive impact, across generations. That said, though, economic, social and cultural rights are often, deprivations of these rights are really entrenched and chronic problems in our societies. And for these reasons, issues like poverty, like illiteracy, like homelessness, they're seen as quite inevitable or irretractable problems. So I think the value add that NHRIs can have is actually exposing these issues as injustices, not as just tragic side effects of a particular policy choice, and demonstrating that they really do amount to failures to fulfill human rights obligations. Addressing these rights requires reframing socioeconomic problems as human rights issues. And to do that, that can be quite a challenge. Traditionally, human rights advocates and activists have relied on a very kind of individualized model of identifying human rights violations. It's this question of kind of unpacking who did what to whom, when. But for economic and social rights problems, you need to expand the lens of analysis to a much more macro level. Over the last kind of 10 to 15 years, there's been a real interest amongst human rights advocates in using more quantitative approaches to do this. Quantitative approaches that rely on numbers and statistics and ratios and percentages are really useful tools for human rights advocates in this kind of work. Because it does give you a very easy to use and comparable measure that can be tracked over time or disaggregated to see the situation facing particular groups. So human rights indicators and budget analysis and other kinds of quantitative methods can really offer a lot in this kind of policy analysis. It's still a challenge to construct a persuasive advocacy argument about whether a particular situation is in compliance with human rights standards. And so continuing to draw on more traditional methods of analysis, more qualitative work, and sharing personal stories from rights holders to really get a flavour for how particular policies or decisions by the government impact people's daily lives is an important counterbalance to this more numerical approach to evaluating economic and social rights. And what we've been doing at the Centre for Economic and Social Rights is thinking about how human rights advocates might more eclectically draw on these various approaches, the numbers on one side and the stories on the other side, and how you fit these two dimensions into a persuasive advocacy argument about human rights compliance and economic and social rights compliance.